Okay, as it's officially time, I'd like to warmly and kindly welcome and thank you all for coming today. Thank you very, very much. We love that you take time out of the day, especially a special day like this. So thank you. Today I have my beautiful co-host over here, Miss Yi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Yi. I think most of you already know me. I am a high performance coach. I help people to get their goals going. That's me.
And when I first met this lady, she was already going. And then over the last year, I've watched her go even more. And it's absolutely beautiful watching her and watching some of the other people in this room grow and develop themselves in all kinds of different ways. And it doesn't matter if we have been coaching for 10 years, 100 years, or 10 days. We are all constantly growing, right? We are all constantly growing. And this particular subject today, love, is one of those beautiful subjects where I think we all can keep growing in, yeah? So whether you've had one or two intimate relationships or perhaps one or two more long-term relationships, it's
not
all
at the same time.
Not at the same time. We will have a variety here today. So some people might be in one of the first, second, third intimate relationship, and some here could be perhaps in their third or fourth marriage, and it's all totally fine, right? However, just note, if it is your third, fourth message, you might want to have a drink at hand. Right, so today's topic, we're going to talk about love psychology. Obviously, today is Valentine's Day. But we also were talking about subjects that we hadn't covered in the past, and we thought this is an incredibly important subject. I mean, is love important to you? It should be important to everyone, right?
Exactly.
Yi and I have a couple of different angles we're going to present. We have about 90 minutes here. As we go, we can take questions as we go, but we might also break up into a room, perhaps twice as we go along. And then towards the end, we'll have more open discussion. Is that all cool? Okay, as we start, I'd like for you guys to have your own pen, of course, because we have our own pens, and just take a quick 30 seconds, or a minute. What is love to you? How do you know when you're in a loving relationship, or how do you know when you are loved? How do you know when you are in a loving relationship, or how do you know when you are loved?
Jimmy says based on attention, on feeling. Johnny says unconditional care for yourself and significant others in my life.
Thank you for sharing very much. And Jeremy, was that a tear already?
No, that's sleep. It's 5:37 a.m.
Thought it was early. Thank you, and thanks, Sean. Thank you guys very much for coming in so early in the morning. So if anyone's just come in late, we just had two questions. Is what is love, or how do you know what is love to you? Second question was, how do you know when you are loved, or how do you know you're in a loving relationship? And the third question is, and I know you can't see so clearly, but I'm just trying to add a little bit of visual learning. So then what? Then what? What does that allow you to do? What? So you're in a loving relationship. So what? What comes after that?
Yanni said, when I feel blossom and happy. Darko said, it gives more confidence and energy.
These are three really good questions to ask ourselves about this topic, and perhaps consider even updating the answers from time to time. See, we can answer these questions, but how often do we actually think about it? And then do we consider changing them? When I grew up as a young boy, being in a relationship meant but as I grew older in my 20s, it started to change. And now I'm approaching 24. Then in my 30s, things were different again. Thanks, Johnny. That's why we needed your camera on, Johnny. And maybe having children or having failing relationships, relationships, love, it means a different thing again. Some books will talk about different levels of relationships, different levels. And as you could perhaps imagine, there might be some kind of level we might have as a teenager. And then those levels might start to mature. But getting older doesn't necessarily mean maturing in that specific context. Sometimes we are so busy with work, we don't get to reflect or perhaps mature and update our love maps. The same way a lot of people find themselves working through their 20s, working through their 30s, working through their 40s, working through their 50s, yet never really updating some of their maps with perhaps retiring or money or love. So it's incredibly important that we continually update our maps on love and perhaps our maps around relationships. So perhaps at the early level of relationships, we may have relationships that are more like, can you imagine a relationship you had in high school? Or perhaps a relationship in your early 20s? What was really important in those relationships? What was really important in those relationships you had in your teens to early 20s? I know there's a lot of boys right now saying, we got to touch boobs. Sorry, Mark. Oh, what was really important in those relationships when you were 20? And then perhaps we have some relationships where it's what I might call a tit for tat relationship, where we do something for them and they do something for us. And our relationship is, well, we are making the moves and we get to the next base. We do this, they do that. We do this, they do that. Even in more mature relationships, we may have the I do this for her, she does that for me. And it might be like, I've done all these things for her, she hasn't done them for me. Kind of like, I do this, she does that. Or I do this and she hasn't done that. And we have relationship struggles because I've done this, she does that. And this is a kind of a level where it's tit for tat. And we also get perhaps a more developed level where it's tit for tat in disguise, where it's still tit for tat, but it's in disguise, meaning that maybe we can do it a few times, but we still expect that return because we've done these deeds. You know, I've given her a massage, or I've picked up the kids, or I've done all these works, I should be getting that. It's tit for tat, but it's in disguise. It's not so clear. But what we want to be talking more about today is moving past these levels towards a level where it's more serving from the heart, giving without expectation or need for return. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all have more relationships, not just intimate relationships, but relationships where we were just there to give? And how would it be if you had a partner who just wanted to give and see you happy? They were giving and not expecting a return. Or they could give you a massage or a back rub, and at the end of it, they could let you sleep. Or they could cook you dinner and just be like, enjoy. Yeah, we all see the benefits in having these relationships. So that's what we want to kind of look towards getting, up to these kind of relationships where we can just give and serve from the heart. But there's a lot of things standing in the way. And Yi is going to share some of her own work and some of her own discoveries. Just before Yi starts, what do you guys think about this tit for tat in disguise, or just sharing and giving without expectation of return? Kind of like 3 levels there. But we don't like to have strong, rigid levels, but there's strong, rigid levels there. It's like tit for tat in disguise, or just giving for the hell of it. I see some non-verbal communication. Would anybody like to share? And guys, do feel free to share more and to watch the chat window as well. We get a lot of great shares in here. Thanks for sharing that, James.
Jay says, in love, when another person of our desire is the most important person in our life that we like to have near us and know that we are loved by their joy and happiness they express and approaches they make to us.
Great. Yi, would you like to take over?
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. So this is what I think ideal relationship. And I didn't know that is exactly exist in our life, in our world. I'd like to share with you a story that I had in 2019, May. I was in Australia. I was in an event, 6 days seminar. Day one, we are told to have a buddy, and we're going to stick with that buddy for 6 days. My buddy's name is Mathis. So the event is big. We have more than 5,000 people in that event. We're divided into teams. Every day, the team sitting in different kind of area of the huge venue. Mathis, oh my gosh, every morning, the first thing he did is looking for his wife, not wives. And then the whole day, every day, he's doing like this from time to time. And when I look into the direction where he's doing this, I can see his wife is doing like, I was like, this is a special plan for a honeymoon. You're not going to a tropical island. You're not going to amazing Japan. You're going to a seminar, 6 days. So I asked Mathis, hey, when did you get married? He says, oh, we've been married more than 20 years. Our daughter just turned 20. What? I thought this kind of long-lasting, beautiful relationship only exists in TV, in the movies. I used to believe that relationships eventually will end up heartbreaking, divorce, breakup, or peacefully turning to roommates. And that's why people saying, marry someone who loves you more than you love that person. I hear this from my friends. I hear this from my parents' generation. I hear this from TVs, medias. I don't know of your country, but my country, exactly. People hear this a lot. Marry someone who loves you more than you love that person. Because we don't want to get hurt. We hold back. But what does this kind of relationship looks like? That means your partner need more love energy than you so that he can give you more. Who wants to be that partner? Do you want to be that partner? Maybe yes, maybe someone will be, because at the beginning he falls in love with you, she falls in love with you. She has this chemistry, she wants to be with you, he wants to be with you. So he give. Then, well, you give back. You're happy because you've been loved. You're happy. You give back. And because that person feels like you're happy, then he or she is happy. So it works. However, when time goes by, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, it comes to one point. You know, there is a law called the law of familiar. When you get something enough, you started to take things for granted. Where does love coming from? Most of us focus on the other person. I want love from them. Because of them, that I feel love. That means love coming from outside. We're expecting our partner to give us love so that we feel happy and we feel love. And because we're happy, we give love back. Then our partner receives love from us. Our partner feels love. Time goes by. Our partners give us love, but we don't feel as happy as before because this is what it is. You're my husband. You're my wife. You're supposed to love me. Then your partner don't feel that the motivation to give love because there's no result. So your partner started to give less. There's no motivation. Then you started to think he or she changed. They're not as passionate as before. It's okay. But then when time passed by, you started to complain. You've known me so long. Why do you still do this? Why don't you think in my shoes? You know I love this. Why don't you give me this? You send up all this negative energy, and he receive it, she receive it, and hold it. People do things based on moving forward because of pleasure or go away because of pain. Then love disappear. Then how? Where does love coming from? We see from a partner, but actually there is another source, which is self. We need love. Peel out all these onion layers. We don't need other people. We don't need other things. We just need love. We can give ourselves love. It might take some time because we're not used to it, because we don't see us. We see other people. We see outside. We're in us. We cannot see. It takes a realization. It takes time to really work on this, how to love ourselves. But when you love yourself, you started to feel whole. You started to feel like you don't need other people to fill the part you lack of, because you don't feel that you lack of anything. Then when you get to this wholeness, these things will happen. You're not gonna attract people who are looking for people who can filling their lackness. You're not gonna be attracted by people who are needy, who are taking love consistently like a black hole. That means you are attracted probably by another wholeness. And when you provide love to yourself, that is endless source. Love from inside out, overflowing to another person, to the other person. And she or he will do the same. You are together not because you need each other. You are together because you are each other's best, highest choice. Then when you produce love and give love and receive love, there's no end. So now it's 1 + 1 equals infinity versus before 1/2 + 1/2 equals 1/4. Love is about giving and receiving with gratitude, not taking. Instead of thinking, what can he or she do for me? Think about, what can we do to the relationship? I asked Mathis, what is your secret so that you can have like 20 plus years of such a happy relationship? Tell me your secret. Mathis said, you give 100%. And you take 100% responsibility. That is the love relationship I would like to work on. How about you, Adrian?
Yeah, great. Because I was just thinking, 100% responsibility, but she doesn't. 100% responsibility, but he doesn't, or he snores, or he forgets important dates, or 100% responsibility, but she's constantly nagging. How do we do this? What do you mean 100% responsibility? Do you mean
100,
like
yeah,
100?
100% responsibility. You cannot change other people. What you can do is change yourself. If you don't want to stay, you leave. If you want to stay, take the 100% responsibility. Do what you can do.
I like this very much. Now, often when I talk with people in real life, I often find that in a story or metaphor, someone can get this and go, yeah, okay, oh yeah, I get it, 100% responsibility. And then within an hour, it's waning. And then, the next day or the next week, I'm talking to them and they tried something, but they didn't. So people seem to struggle a bit with this 100% responsibility thing. Or is it just
I would say
me?
it has to be two sides. Ideally, two sides. When you complain about other people, you are giving power to the other person. Take the responsibility, do whatever you can do. If it doesn't work, you still have the choice. And not making a choice is a choice. But if you started to think, it's not my fault, it's that person's fault, then nothing will happen. That's a choice. That's another choice.
Now, I would like to pass it over to you guys and get your thoughts about that. Don't worry, it doesn't matter if you've had ex-partners or not. What do you think about that? Taking 100% responsibility and getting this love from yourself.
Darko says, in my case, love is changing during the years as the life responsibility changes.
Okay, I remember this beautiful model, and no one stepped up quick enough, so I'm going to share a little beautiful model. Everyone I've worked with for a period of time knows this model. And we say there's 4 levels. I've got the start of it here, and I remember, I think Mr. Nicholas may have seen this before. The first level of life we have is victim. And this is like someone standing on the edge of a river. Life's like passing them by. Beautiful love, life, everything is passing them by, but they're on the side of the river complaining because they didn't get the boat, or they didn't get the instructions, or they got the wrong boat, or the hole in the boat, or they didn't bring their swimming trunks or something. Number one, victimhood. Victimhood. And from time to time, we can be a victim. And guess what? Sometimes it's actually probably right to be a victim, you know? If your partner or your ex has just come across and smacked you over the back of your head, you might want to be a victim for a little while. But then we've got to step up to level 2, where we're taking responsibility, 100% responsibility. 100% responsibility. And now this is like jumping into the river. We're jumping into the river. However, we may be jumping into the river and swimming upstream. We could be in a relationship taking 100% responsibility, but the river could be flowing the wrong way. And how many of us have found ourselves in a relationship taking responsibility, perhaps taking responsibility for too long, and we really should have perhaps pulled out earlier. Sometimes we can be taking responsibility, but the river's going downstream and there's, you know, waterfall and rocks, and we just get smashed along the rocks. And some people take responsibility, but they're going through a waterfall and they may actually be getting beaten up. They may get beaten up and they're taking responsibility and they're getting beaten up and they haven't got the balls to get out, or they've been swimming the wrong way.
Totally agree with you, Adrian.
So we'll get to level 3 in a moment, but there are genuine people. And as a coach, I often end up on a call with someone and they're at level 1 or 2 in their own life and in their relationship. And I had a man, I think 3-4 weeks ago, a typical client of mine, mid-30s, expat, on the edge of divorcing from his wife, running his business. And he said he wanted to get a divorce. Great. So I'm going to show this for the coaches in the house because we've got a handful of coaches here. What do you do when your client says they want a divorce? Well, I said to my client, all right, but wait. If you're going to go down the divorce route, we need to at least go 100% hard in rescuing the relationship. And as your coach, I will end our contract and I will not work with you if we do not go 100% hard on recovery first. Maybe not always, but this is my exact client. And we went 100% hard and he took full responsibility and he was able to change the course of the river. He was able to change the relationship. I've also had clients, they've tried to change and they've ended up, okay, they've got to pull the plug. The third level is when you're hopping in the river and you're going with the flow. So I've shared this in the chat window, and this transfers from life into relationships and also into business. Level 3 is we're in flow. And in level 3, the macro is right. So if you're reflecting this to a business, the macro environment is right. You're investing and the overall trend is up. So some of the micro might be wrong, but the overall trend is your friend and you're going with the flow. The relationship, the partner you're with has the ability to go with the flow. Your partner has the ability. You've got to work out some of the smaller details, but the overall river is going in the right direction. You can go in flow. Now, being in flow doesn't mean it's going to be a smooth ride. There can be some rough patches, and sometimes we get hit in the face by a rock. Or sometimes tragedies happen, even when we're in flow. They just had a number 7 earthquake in Tokyo just a little while ago. So we can get in flow, but it's hard to get in flow if your boat has a hole the size of a manhole. And by the way, number 4, we don't often get into number 4, but level 4 is a beautiful one. And if you get to level 4, it starts to transform things. That's transcendence. Now, some guys like Jeremy may have another model for this, But number 4, transcendence, is when we're realizing that we are the river and we are the obstacle. And so much more than that. We are the river and we are the obstacle. We got to get up to level 3 and level 4 in our lives, in our business, and in relationships.
I'd like to hear what you are saying. If you guys have any thoughts, please share. I'd like to add something first. Talking about responsibility, it's not just take the responsibility to fix the relationship. Get out of the relationship can be responsibility. That may be good for the other person too.
I've had a whole pile of clients that probably should have separated earlier. I separated a year ago. Probably should have done it a lot earlier, but I thought I did the whole 100%. I got coaching, I had therapy, I did a few things, I did actually tons of things, and me and her were both going together to therapy. But the flow was just like, if I took 100% responsibility for everything, it would lead me into a waterfall where I would be getting battered and bruised for the next few years, perhaps for the rest of my life. And I thought, I don't want my kids to wake up in an environment where daddy's taking 100% responsibility and getting battered and bruised every day. But before taking the exit, I did tons of self-work. I put multiple thousands of dollars in trips into myself. I flew to courses here and there. I got coaching here and there, therapy, psychology here and there. And at the end of the day, it's like, all right, I've done so much. It's definitely a river going the wrong way. The partner took steps as well. I actually bought her for, my partner saw E on stage. My partner probably saw that guy kissing. And my partner at the time realized as well that my partner came out and said, she's got a whole bag of trauma, and the trauma was so big that it's going to take her a long time and I didn't have or want to be in and having my kids seeing the trauma. So out, work on myself, learn to love myself, and partners doing the same thing.
Marina asked, what is the best way to navigate the river if your partner is having a victim mindset? Isn't it working for two?
Marina, could you just expand what you mean by the second part of your question? Isn't it working for two? And guys, this is a genuine problem, and I'm sure we all see this a fair bit. What do you do when your partner maybe is not as conscious as you? Or perhaps your partner is victimhood and not getting out. Can we coach our partners? Well, I actually think we can. But I wouldn't be coaching them with the typical ICF framework. Maybe coaching them like a little cheerleader, Like they do something, they buy a book on something. We can be like, yay! We can make them a cup of tea. If we see them reading, we can make a cup of tea and put it there with them and allow them and give them that support. And we can support our partners when they try to step up. When our partners try to step up, we can be there and say, oh, you're trying to step up. I see you're trying to step up. It's so fantastic to see that you're trying to see, hear, feel, and sense that you're trying to step up. Is there something I can do to take the weight off you while you're doing that? But if our partners are refusing to take any steps, are they really refusing to take steps, or are they refusing to take your steps? Are they refusing to take steps, or are they just being rebellious or something? Because some partners won't want to do things specifically because you said it, because they may hold resentment or a variety of things. Yet they might take advice or books from someone else, so someone else may be in a better place to support them and get them out of victimhood. But even if someone else is, we can also make that more accommodating. If they're seeing some expert or coach or therapist, we can be more accommodating and supportive for that. So if our partner is taking steps, we can be there afterwards and say, if you like to share anything you learned today, or if there's anything I can do to support. If our partners took steps to get help and they didn't, we could still give them a little treat. We can give them encouragement and cheer them on for starting to take baby steps. And we can also take steps and cheer ourselves on and coach ourselves to take more steps forward. Sorry, I'm talking too much today, Miss Yi.
No. Johnny said they don't know to take steps, so leave them alone. So what if that's, yeah. What if they don't take that step?
And Johnny, do you want to share, is there a level here? Is there a step or perhaps a level or something here about recognizing perhaps that your partner is the way they are and perhaps not changing them?
I think there is no level. I think it's about what you want from the whole relationship. So the issue is when I have expectations. So if I don't have expectations, the reason why we've been successfully together for the last 35 years is that we just don't have expectations. We just take each other for what we are for each other.
That's because you're whole already. You don't need anything from the other person.
Of course I do. And what I do need is given, but there's a difference between what I need and what I want.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think when I want something and I don't get it is when I get disappointed. But only see, it's like the absence of it is when I realize that, wow, it has been there. But when it is there, I don't realize it. I just take it for granted. So that's what I'm saying, that there's a difference between the need and the want. So what I'm needing is given, and when it is not there is when I feel the absence of it. But when it's there, I don't celebrate the presence of it. And it took a long time for me to realize that.
You ever see palm trees, or for that matter, pretty much any tree? Palm trees don't grow side by side. There's space in between them.
Yeah.
They stand strong and they have space, and they can stand by themselves and they can stand together. We need that space.
Yeah.
We may see on some of the, I don't want to say it, on the less developed relationships or perhaps less mature, we may have like enmeshment and codependency stuff. And some people can be happy in a relationship like that. I remember an amazing, incredible story where a friend of mine jumped in and stopped a fight. So there was a man and a woman at the pub, Australian bar, right? And the man turned around and hit the woman. And then he went in and hit the woman again. And my friend jumped in and stopped him. And then the woman beat my friend and said, "Why are you doing that Why are you doing that to? Why are you doing that to my man? He's showing me that he loves me. All right, so we don't interfere when other people do that sometimes.
See, the other thing which I've learned over the last 35 years of being together is to focus on what we have rather than what we don't have with each other. And the more I focus on that, I think the more we become closer. I know you're smiling, Adrian.
Oh mate, I got some notes for today's session, and you. These are ideas because we had so many, you know, Yi and I have both coached, you know, so many people with relationship challenges. We when we were brainstorming this, we had like 100,000 points we could write up, and abundance and scarcity wasn't on there, and it should be.
Yeah,
It should really be an abundance of love. I mean,
absolutely.
Alicia, I'd like to hear what you think about the relationship because you've been through some experience. Mhm.
I don't know. Give me one facet you'd like to know about Yi. I'll just say my humble opinion at this point in my journey. Ooh, interesting. Okay. I saw something in the group chat from Marina. Share examples of wants and needs and expectations of how they differ. I think the biggest thing for me with the relationship is understanding how people process things. So like one of the things is understanding, like a long time ago in my first marriage, when there were problems, I read this book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. You know, it's like ancient, but it really actually was helpful. And it helped me to understand the mentalities that we have about trying to fix each other, how some people want to talk through things, some people want to retreat. So for me, I think the biggest thing is having clear expectations, being authentic yourself, and then being able to unconditionally love somebody, including understanding how they process and do things so that you have a strategy together. So if I'm with somebody and I know that they like to retreat, but I'm a person who wants to talk things out, then I just say, okay, we know this about each other, so then we have an agreement. The agreement is, if you are so upset that you have to retreat, you just say, I need to go and process, but we'll talk about this in 24 hours. Okay. Then I know that there's an end in sight. Then I know and I have what I need. And if I really need to get stuff out, then I can write it down, or I can talk to somebody else to help me process it and then come back the next time. So, but knowing what a want is and a need is also really important, but I'll let somebody else talk about that instead of talking too much.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's very, very, very important to know how people communicate. Some exactly like you said, some are like want to need some time to hold it and then talk, and some people just want to talk immediately, and we need to know each other's styles and also respect each other's styles, and that's how we can communicate well. And also you remind me about 5 love language that people receive love in different ways, and we know how we do it and if we can get clear how the other person receive love, how they can feel the love, then we use their love language to give them love, then they will receive it properly and we get the results. We feel the value that we gave and they received. Otherwise, we're just giving without receiving. Is like doing things for nothing.
I threw John Gray's books in there, guys. I think John Gray's books are great. I remember reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus as a kid or as a teenager. However, his newer books are even better. So he has upgraded it. Regarding 5 love languages, absolutely important and critical. However, if you haven't read it yet, don't worry about reading it. Do some NLP instead. The thing about the 5 love languages is there's no 5 love languages. It's a metaphor. It's a myth. There's 50 million love languages. 50 million love languages. Or sorry, maybe 60 million. So don't get me quite right on the numbers. But let's say a person has the love language of verbal or communicating. They need to hear, I love you. Yeah, that's not always true, because what they might need to hear is, I support you, or I respect you, or I appreciate you, or I'm proud. It might not necessarily be those words, I love you. It could also be the tonality. And some of us here are probably completely tone deaf. No, not completely, because we understand sometimes. So the 5 love languages is absolutely great, but really NLP is so much better, because we can actually say to our partners or our friends, so how do you know when you're loved? What is it? And that's the NLP question, by the way. For some guys, we're going to be accessing this, I think, very, 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 very shortly. It comes under the NLP strategies element, and we can actually say, how do you know when you're loved? Which is one of my first questions, right? Question number 2 or 3 was, how do you know when you're loved? That's to elicit your love strategy. Now, when you're aware of your love strategy, but if you're not aware of it and your partner's not aware of it, it can be quite a game for them. Now, something I haven't heard raised yet is, how do you know if the relationship, if that river is going the right direction? How do you know if the river and the relationship is going the right direction? Well, does this, I haven't wrote any words up there, but does this little thing, diagram, mean anything to anyone? Neurological levels? It's just a pyramid. But remember neurological levels? A lot of the NLPs in the house already know neurological levels. And at the top, we may have like a vision, or we may have spirituality.
Yes.
And we may have our identity, and we may have our values, and we may have our beliefs, our capabilities, and more, and more. But what if you look at neurological levels and a relationship? So if you want to know if the river is going the right way, do you guys have a shared vision? Talking to a beautiful lady the other day, and she's like, I would love to just settle down, and I'm gonna make this up. Is it okay if I make this up and go?
Yeah.
Everything else is completely 100% right on the door, but I'm gonna make this up. So this lady said, like, Adrian, you're so awesome. I'd love to settle down, and I'll look after you for the rest of your life. You know, we can stay here in this town, and we can just get old and just live here peacefully for the rest of our lives. I'm like, I don't want that. That's not what I want. I want to be able to live in different countries. I want to take my kids up and put them in China and bring them back and maybe go back and forth. And she's like, oh, no. I don't want that. I just want to get old and gray and just live in a quiet little rural town, you know, and like feed the cows and stuff. I'm like, cows? I don't want anything to do with cows. You know, I don't mind growing a variety of stuff. I don't want anything to do with cows. Our visions don't align. Our visions are very different. Now, I know there's a few people here that have partners from different countries. Did you ever discuss what your vision was? Did you have a vision for yourself? Now, I had a vision of living in different places. Do you have a vision, and do you have a shared vision with your partner? So it's incredibly valuable to check and perhaps even sit down, and it doesn't matter if your partner hasn't had NLP training. You can discuss what's most important about your future. A friend of mine was with a woman and they had an incredible relationship. She said she didn't want any kids. He didn't have any kids. I think he's approaching like 48, getting close to 50. He didn't have any kids. It was a wonderful relationship. And then she said, I actually want kids. And now they've got a major dilemma because they've been building this kind of life together. And now she's like, no, I've always wanted kids. I just didn't say it because I knew you something. I thought you might have changed. So now they've got completely different visions. No kids, wanting kids. So if you want to make sure or see if the river is going downstream and moving downstream, you might want to make sure you get that shared vision. Yep. Now, if you got at the neurological levels, if the top of the pyramid, if both of you have similar on the top, it's easier to get the rest aligned. But if you're quite different with your vision, then everything below is generally a challenge. And now there are some things we can compromise on and some things we can't. And it's wonderful to have that kind of discussion in relationships, perhaps openly and easily.
John, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's your turn to take over because he just finished his piece. I do relate with Adrian that the vision part, it's very important to make sure that you are swimming in the same side of the river, on the same rhyme of the river. Otherwise, you will be swimming up and down and you may not meet each other along the way.
At the beginning, it's quite difficult when you love that person. You know that you don't have a same vision. Just like you said, Adrian, that woman may know that the guy don't want children, but she assumed that that guy will change. She hoped that the guy will change because she's so in love with that guy. And when people are in love, how can they make the right decision?
Would anyone like to comment on the love and factuation? Is it factuation?
May I go? Already gone. So the issue is when people are in love, there is no right decision or wrong decision. That's first. Every decision is the good decision at the moment. So what was the question again? I just forgot my thoughts.
When that woman is really falling in love, the chemistry, the everything, like she just want to keep going. Yeah.
There is so in every relationship there is compromising. We all have different values. Most of the issues between the relationship comes from like what I used to call it. It's like different values, conflict. Okay, so mainly when that woman, she loved this man and she hoped that he will accept what she wants. Okay, that's according to her values, because for her it's something very simple, but for him it might be core values. So we can't change our values, we can compromise our values, but the core values, we can't compromise them. We can compromise them to a certain level. More than that, then it will like changing me. If I'm changing my core values, that's when I'm changing myself. Some people, they might be able to do it if they see the vision of the relationship, or if they see the long-term values of the relationship. But if they couldn't do it, that's mean it's a core values that I'm unable to change, and maybe it's time to take 100% responsibility and pull out. That's my thoughts.
Totally agree. 100% responsibility.
Hey, John, if I could expand this little thing a little tiny bit. When I did this thing with my ex, we had like a similar shared vision. This is before having kids. We had like a shared kind of vision, being able to live between Australia, maybe Australia, New Zealand, and China. And we went a level down as well. We looked at our values. We actually looked at our values. I kind of assisted her a bit in writing out her values and writing out my values, and we saw there were differences. But some values were pretty on track, particularly around health. And yeah, I've got 2 kids, and we really agree on a lot of the things because our values are aligned. I know a lot of people that have kids of different partners, and they're constantly at it with different value systems. But when it comes to my kids, we don't have any challenges about so much of the important stuff because we agree, our values are aligned on so much of the stuff, you know.
Yeah. And, and as many people may know, our values changeable with the time. Whenever we are taking something new or learning something new or doing something new, there is changing in values. But the core values, like for example, Adrian, core values are the kids. The kids are core values. You can't compromise around that. So that's what I realized. Like along our journey, our values are flexible. Some values will go down, some values will go up. But the top 5 core values, those are very difficult to change because they represent us. We live by them. That's my own take of it.
Yeah, and as those values are met or not met?
Again?
As the values are met and not met as well. So yeah, you have totally right on everything. Just adding in when the values are met and not met as well. Now, on the other hand, I've spoken with some people who are actually in relationships and they've got kids that are 7 and 10 years old, and the woman or the mother said that we're going to live between China and America. And now the child is 7, the other one is 10, and they have never lived in America. And my American client in China is like, I don't know what's quite going on because we're at 7 and 10 years now. When the hell are we actually going to live in America? You know, my kids are completely fluent in Chinese. They go to school here. Cost of living here is so with the, you know, expensive private school. But we said we were going to live in America. And he's hitting a crisis point because, as you can imagine. And for those as well, if you're not already aware, according to some of the experts, Wayne Dyer has a movie about, I think it's called The Shift. But this is also written by some other books, one of the great authors. If you want to support your partner, through passages, this particular author here, the book I think maybe 10 or 20 years old, Gail Sheeny, Passages, and it's passages for men. This kind of backs up what Wayne Dyer is talking about in The Shift. But this is about our whole value system changing, like from our 20s to 30s, 40s to 50s and 60s to 70s or 80s. The whole value system's changing. So the man and the woman's value systems should be changing. And with The Shift, there's kind of like the way Wayne Dyer explained it, which I saw after, you know, watching it more aware. It's like the values, and suddenly they hit a halfway point in life, and it's like flip upside down. For men at the start, it's often competing, but they hit a point where it's connecting and collaborating. But there's multiple shifts in the person's value systems naturally going through life. Hence, it's so important that relationships support each other and we get the love from inside. Because we could have a relationship that's going really well, but one person in the relationship could be experiencing changes. And for the women, real changes in their body, you know, and for men, maybe traditionally losing their job or something. And men and women can go through periods of depression. And in those periods of depression, we may question, does our partner love us, etc., etc. So we've got to make sure that we can dig deep and get love from ourselves to support the partner.
Marina, do you want to say anything?
I have a question. When do you think it's appropriate to ask about these visions and values? Like, do you think it's appropriate to ask straight from the beginning before you deep dive into the relationships?
Go on, John. What are you about to say? After 3 drinks?
Make sure you don't ask on the first day, otherwise the man will run. Build the rapport first, then you ask these things.
Or you go without the first date. You just go for a coffee and you can ask anything because it's not a date. We're just friends. We just talk.
What about this period where at the beginning of relationships, we're not actual real selves. We're trying to prove that we're a better version of ourselves, which means it's not quite authentic.
There you go. So you are building your relationship on not quite authentic self.
No, but like we're always the best versions of ourselves at the beginning, right?
We are always the best version of ourselves. No?
No, but when you meet someone new.
Okay, so you're improving yourself.
But then it's not quite in alignment with your authentic self, no? My point is, if I'm asking right at the beginning, right off the bat, like, what is your vision and values? The answer will differ after if I ask as well. It's like 2 different values and visions.
And even if you are completely open and honest yourself and authentic yourself, they might not be.
Alicia, please.
I think that it's okay to be completely yourself and ask the questions that you want to ask. If you ask a question and you're a direct person and it scares the guy off, then you should be happy because now you have 9 billion other people to choose from and you've already eliminated the fail. I think it's all right. I also agree with Yi. I think when you first go out, I hardly ever go on a date first. I almost always say, I will meet you as a friend and then we'll see if I'll let you take me on a date. We'll see. I think that way it cuts all the pressure. You can actually talk to each other as human beings, and then you don't have to worry so much about these questions and being authentic because you've gotten rid of all of that BS in the beginning. That's just me. I'm usually good with dating. It's the marriage thing I'm not good with, but the dating thing I'm usually good with. How's that for authentic?
Now, for those that are in the dating game, typically when we're dating, particularly for the gentlemen here, but I'm sure women might do it as well. When we're dating, we often tell stories. So when we're dating, we often tell stories. Why do we tell stories? So she thinks we're cool? So we get laid? Is that what you're trying to say, John?
Well, it might be, depend on the story. So technically, from my own understanding, we tell stories to make ourselves more understandable. Understand the other person, understand us better with a story. You know?
So if I was to be sharing some stories, I might like to share stories conveying some personal traits about myself. Stories that share about authenticity, or stories that share about helping, or stories that share about certain things. And I might like to share stories to get certain points across to my potential partners. And I completely agree with, in the early dating stages, we might be presenting our best self. I mean, let's just say we snore a lot. We're not really going to go into our first date or coffee date and say, oh, by the way, I'm a loud snorer. We're going to try to hold that back. So we're totally going to put on our front face. Now, one of the things I love is a gentleman by the name of Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton has a book, it's called The Biology of Belief, which is basically the placebo-nocebo effect. But in his second book, The Honeymoon Effect, Bruce goes on and talks about why relationships are so difficult. And he basically says that when we start to date, we are presenting our best self. And when we are having our first date, well, I'm going to meet the girl soon. I might even have a coffee, or I might prepare myself. You know, we put extra effort in, and when we're having conversation, there's a higher level of conscious awareness, and we're presenting our best self. But over a period of time, that presenting wears a bit thin. First date, first 5 dates or 10 dates, perhaps we're picking up the bill. No problem, you know, we're making accommodation, extra effort. But after a period of time, that honeymoon effect generally wears off, and we get to a more raw, real relationship where we might present to our partner, I've had a shit day. Now, I might say I've had a shit day because that's what we do in my culture or my family. And this is where it starts to get complicated, because I now present in the relationship. There's now me. There's my everything I learned from my father, everything I learned from my mother. Now, the things I learned from my mother and father, I may have embodied or I may have rejected. But the relationship is more complex because there's me, my best self I'm trying to present, or my worst self, my father and my mother, and there she is. And she's got the same thing, her mother, her father. So now the relationship gets really complicated or complex. So the absolute easiest way, I believe, truly, is to work on ourself, making ourself more whole, doing shadow work to reclaim. Perhaps, you know, reclaim the dark shadow, the gold shadow, do shadow work, you know, heal ourselves so we can really be more authentic and true, not just to a potential partner, but true to ourselves. And then when we go out and meet other people, we can be in a place of real abundance, not needy, but abundance. And then from a place of abundance, we're more likely to attract abundance, which was what Yi said at the start, rather than being needy and attracting needy. And then from that place of abundance, like Alicia has a fair bit of perhaps bucket loads of abundance with herself, meaning she can easily walk away and be like, no, she knows she's lovely. She knows she loves herself. So that is incredibly helpful. In fact, I go home a lot and I'll sit on my balcony, just a glass of water, and I'll put on a little track and I'll do some self-love. For those that haven't experimented with it yet, heart maths is a great one. Heart maths, you can tune into your heartbeat or to the waves of your heart. And through heart maths, which Tony Robbins speaks about on stage, heart maths is really up there, about $200 US. You can get yourself a little contraption. You can plug it into your computer. Be a good one for Sean to invest in, and a few other gentlemen. You may like to invest in it. So $200, you plug it in, and you do like a basic breathing meditation, and maybe you can kind of master it through breathing. But your score is going to get like to here. But then if you get the feeling of love and you build your connection to love and feel love, your score starts to go up higher. And through meditating with love and love for yourself, your score gets higher and higher. Now, we can practice that, and as we're practicing that, we may be collapsing anchors from the past. Yeah, we may be getting, what do you call it? Loosening up the mind, like mindfulness. What do they call that, Jeremy, in mindfulness? When your mind is like warm honey and it soaks down. So you might want to practice things like the heart maths or heart meditation and stuff to really connect and build this love thing. And for the coaches, therapists, probably want to get one of these devices. Now, E, you also mentioned self-love. What else can people do to build their self-love to better prepare, heal themselves and everything for loving relationships?
So the thing is that if people never really have this concept, then the first thing is to realize that we can love ourselves. And the second thing is know how to. There are some books that tons of information is online. You type self-love on YouTube, there's so many things online. Then you can get a lot of information from YouTube or books. Then the third step is how to use that knowledge work on ourselves. We might have a lot of questions. Just using the knowledge, it doesn't mean we can just use it. Sometimes we need help. And that's where coaching comes from. One-on-one coaching is much better than you learn by yourself. There's some questions that sometimes you cannot see yourself. You need some mirror to give you some feedback. And also need some guidance. The guidance from you, but the coach helped you to see your own path.
If you're in one of the programs where you get some free coaching, excellent. And if you're in a program or something where you get some free coaching, see if you can team up with one particular coach and maybe have 3 or 4, 5 or 6 sessions with one particular coach working on love every time. One of the biggest problems with coaches is they don't get enough coaching themselves. Yet we have these practice groups.
Sometimes you're blind because our brain is like ancient millions of years old brain that try to help us, try to protect us. That's why we start to complain other people without looking at ourselves. What are we doing? We can make any options. We can make any choices. It's us that can control ourselves.
Remember, we got our own definition of what is love. What is love? And we need to accept that this can change from person to person. What is love for one could be quite different for someone else. So you might get some coaching from Jay, or you might get some coaching from Jeremy or Darko. And those guys, if you ask them for advice or mentoring, they might share more of their opinion. Yet if you ask them for coaching, they'll help draw out your own definition. And then update your own definition. And I'm going to ask Jeremy and Jay and Darko in a minute if they'd like to share anything. Jay, thank you for your comments in the group too. And Jeremy, I can't believe you're up this early.
You're welcome, Adrian.
We've made it to sunrise.
Jeremy's up really early. Have you woken up extra early to cook someone breakfast for Valentine's Day, Jeremy?
Well, I've been quiet in this because I'm not in a relationship and I have not been a very successful partner. I've been really good at being the victim and being the opposite of that, thinking that I'm victimized by taking 100% responsibility. So I figured it was best to keep my mouth quiet during this presentation.
Well, it seems I think Jeremy's got wisdom maybe that I haven't yet, but being through a number of relationships of my time, I don't think I'm a failure at love. I think I'm a failure at relationship, and that something I've said in there, that this equation of love is a successful relationship is, I think, totally false. Although, as I've said, I believe romantic love is the term that's used, is a good foundation for a successful relationship, but not the only one. So I think there's some maybe thought looking at here, as when we talk about love, is that wonderful joy of meeting somebody and becoming totally focused on them and getting this mutual approbation of each other and enjoyment and fulfillment, whatever. But then as you move on and you start to think, well, there's a relationship, it's in when personality and our values and all the other things that start to need to mesh together. So no love can withstand a mismatch of values, sometimes culture, sometimes other things. And this is when you have the heart-mind challenge, I suppose, to look at it. So for me, there's I talk mostly about sort of relationship issues here, not so much about the love, and then maybe what the transition is. And all these questions, things I'm seeing, it's not covering so much well the transition and understanding of what happens when our love changes to wanting to be in a relationship. I just find something interesting to discuss. My view, that's it.
Now, Darko.
I think that the love is changing during the years. So it is not the same as when I was 25, for example, and when I got married, and now, because also the life situation are changing. Then I was single, then got married, then comes children's, which strengthen the love. Now we are starting something together, developing our family, our business. So it changed during the thing. So what my approach is to go just with the flow and see what's happen. I cannot plan. I cannot make a vision what I want. That was in my situation. Just I think we need to follow that. We need to be flexible, and as the situation is changing, we don't know what the life will bring us. But we need to how to say, accommodate to the situation if we want to stay in the partnership and with love. And I think this mutual accommodation to something is something that shows love. For example, sometime I will be more anxious or depressed, will not be in good mood, and then my partner will support me. But another day, maybe she will be in not good state, so I will support. And this mutual exchange is something which grows us through the love and partnership.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing, Jay, Jeremy, and Darko. Ladies and gentlemen, we're pretty precise with our timing, so that wraps up the official session. But what I would like to propose, since it's Valentine's Day, I would like to propose a little exercise. For those that would like to stay around for another 15, 20 minutes, I'd like to break us up into pairs and do a little exercise. I have very clear instructions. Anyone can do this exercise. Everyone that's got their camera on will be paired with someone else with a camera on, and those without would be paired without. Would you like to experiment with an exercise? And for those that need to go, but well, I'll share a little bit as well. I'll share a little bit, and then if you want to check out, you can check out. E, is it okay if we do a demo about that activity we shared before? Yeah, we weren't too sure if we have enough time. So it goes simply like this. We're going to be in groups of 2, and I'll share I start, I'm person one, so let's say me and you are in a room together, and I might start, and we start by getting in a coach state. Some people might know the coach state already. Centered, open, aware, holding calm. Take 30 seconds or a minute to get into like a meditative state, and I say to my partner, Yi, and by the way, you can actually do this with a romantic partner. You can do it with a romantic partner or a friend. I say to you, what I want to see in the world, what I want to see in the world is I want to see more success. Apologies, step back. Can't believe I just said that. What I want you to see is I want you to see my happiness. I want you to see my success. What I don't want you to see is my uncertainty. What I don't want you to see is my uncertainty. Now, E says back,
I see, hear, feel, and sense that your happiness and your success. And I still can see, hear, feel, and sense that you're insecure. As I see both, and I see much, much more.
and I share again. What I want you to see is, and then I say, well, what I don't want you to see is, oh, I'm addicted to alcohol, I'm addicted to this and that. And he replies back. So I'll put this I'll put this in the chat window. Oh, that's good. I wrote it up totally right. I just said it totally wrong. Whoop. Okay, so I'll share this in the chat window. Now, this, you might consider it shadow work. You might consider it sharing some vulnerability, perhaps. Okay.
Repeat these 3 to 4 times, and it can be different X and Y.
Yep.
Is that right?
Correct. So fill in the X and Y with your own thing. So for my X's, I want you to see my happiness. My Y was I don't want you to see my uncertainty. Now, I'm not just saying it. While I'm saying it, I'm genuinely feeling it. I don't know if you saw them, but I had to take a couple of seconds to get into what it was. And some people will be like, yeah. But by saying what we don't want to see, yeah. Now, so we'll jump into pairs and do this exercise, and then that's it. Lights out. Sayonara. Thank you very much for coming. We will be here next week, except next week I believe we'll be doing a breathwork session. So we'll break you into the groups. When you finish the group, you can switch off, or perhaps you can continue talking with your partner about whatever we've discussed today or something else. Is that cool? So we get the workshop and we get a group exercise. E, is there anything you'd like to add or close off with? Please do.
I see some people need to leave. Let's just see who will stay so that we can split into rooms.
Hi, thank you. The 3 Mendes ladies
Thank
are out.
you.
Peace.
Alicia, you might want to do this activity in your house.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing all kinds of fun stuff here. This is our self-love Valentine's Day. We're kicking it here, single lady style. So
Have
thank
fun.
you.
Beautiful.